Welcome to the Spiritual Development Channel. I'm Nasi Shuvel, and today we got another wonderful lesson. This show is Conversation with Kingz. It's a man show, so we talk about man issues. We talk about things that we need to speak about, man. And sometimes people don't understand that men go through certain things in life. They go through depression. They go through a lot of things that they're battling. And this show is for us, right? But if you have a wife or a significant other, I'll give you a few seconds to tell them to come sit down and watch the show with you. Have them watch the show with you. It's going to be very important and imperative for your relationship. All right, let's get into it. Is your wife a Esther or Vashti? Now, those who aren't familiar with the biblical paradigm, I will explain it as I go on. But this is a show you need to watch. Brothers, I know you be going through it. I know sometimes you be like, why can't I get a break? But we're going to make sure that you understand by utilizing this story as a foundation to get to where you need to go and understand it. All right, so let's go. You have a story that's placed inside the beautiful and holy scriptures called the Tanakh. And the Tanakh creates archetypes of individuals' epithets. And the epithet is a descriptive nature or a name. It's like almost like an ethnonym that people call somebody, right? And it describes the person's characteristics. So these are basically archetypical characteristics established inside of this world or a priori structure that we're under. So it's like we can't prove it exists, but we know it exists, right? So now follow along with me and let's enjoy this story. Here we are during the time of the beautiful Persians. And there's just so much to understand about the beauty of this picture and the contrast that's being created by two different entities. You have one hand, you have Hadassah, and then you have Vashti, who's the queen of Persia. And the story is so beautiful because some of the times we don't make it out of the introduction without understanding the underlining tone. And I say that because if you think about it, if we're still reading the scriptures like you did 5 years ago and not starting to break down the names and understand the names, we're in a dangerous place. See, the story's behind the names, and we're going to get it. Let's go. All right. Hadassah. What does Hadassah mean? See, if you say you know the story and you like the story, then you haven't yet ventured into the story if you don't know what Hadassah means. Hadassah means star, but it literally means myrtle tree. Now, a myrtle tree. See, when you start getting close to the nature and start to walk around and sense your environment, you know what things do inside of your nature. So you have this beautiful tree, or similar to a bush, which grows beautiful star-like flowers, white, purple, and it stands in your presence. Now, this myrtle tree in the ancient times represented marriage and love. But the symbolism behind the myrtle tree was supported by the four pillars. And I probably go more than four pillars, but it was supported by pillars. Marriage is supported by truth, chastity, love, and from the woman's perspective, femininity and gentleness. We didn't even get into the story yet, and you already know Hadassah's character, who's called Esther. So we have marital fidelity, which is the overarching type of the myrtle tree. It's how to keep everybody in unison. And so now you know the characteristic of Hadassah. She exuded feminism, and not the feminism that you knew today, but the femininity of ancient times. You know, the dainty woman, the beautiful woman, the kind, the sweet, gentleness. Think about these concepts. Truth, purity. All right. So now juxtapose, in juxtaposition to Hadassah, which is Esther, you have Vashti. And what does Vashti mean? Is she drunk? She's drinking. She's sipping her tea, son. In ancient times, drinking represented socialization because drinking was very imperative into the development of human existence. One thing you know that in the hard periods of developing empires, developing structures, we started to realize things were tough, so we tend to nerve or numb our nerves, so to speak. And in numbing our nerves, we started to drink. But what happens when you drink is the unbridled aspect, the things that are not held back anymore. It's an uncut truth. It's no longer presented in a way where it's delicate. It's no longer presented in a way where it's kind. And also this, and she drunk, represents the socialization being put before the pillars of marriage. Meaning that the idea or the concept of socialize is more important than what's going on at home. Think about that. So now we're talking about the socialization. You see all the women, Facebook, Instagram, going out drinking, enjoying themselves. Hey, that is typical of what's going on today. It comes before the gentleness. It comes before the pureness. It comes before the chastity and the marital fidelity. Now, that's something to consider. Now, let's go, guys. Do you like a masculine woman? Absolutely not. So you're telling me that Hadassah represents how to keep your man. So, a feminine, gentle, kind woman. And deals with you delicate. Come on, this conversation with Kingz. And also, the purity and truth and the innocence. We have to keep the truth alive. And be truthful with one another. Sometimes we want men to guess what you're going through, but the truth sometimes can teach a man how to develop and what he needs to become in order to be able to protect you and protect your spirit. So we got into Hadassah, the Vashti. Let's get into the story. Now, King Ahasuerus is throwing this beautiful, beautiful, elegant gathering. All the people from around the world are coming. And this is the first time you actually see Hodu. Hodu is the Hindus, India. And they're coming into the feast. So Vashti also represents beauty. Keep that in mind. Similar to Hadassah, but it represents beauty. And the myrtle tree also was the tree of the goddesses in ancient mythology, right? The tree of the goddess. Venus, the goddess of love, hid behind this in order to cover her nakedness. So these pillars that we talk about allow us to cover ourselves and understand true love. Because love without them principles is not real love at all. Think about it. So now, the king is throwing this beautiful feast. He has everybody there. People from all over the world. And notice my lessons are basically step by step going into one portion to another portion. Men all over the world that respect the king. You don't come to the king's banquet unless you respect him. You don't travel from across country or from distant lands or remote lands of the world to come visit somebody unless they're revered. And this represents the aspect of leadership which we talked about last time. People come to see the revered. The people come to see those who are respected. And when they come, they want to see a high level of order and prestige. So it is incumbent upon us as a family to keep together our honor, our image, and our prestige. So now, as he has all the princes and no man, Hadassah, or no, Vashti has women over her palace that Ahasuerus bought. And you think this woman would be happy? She's the queen. So, in it, the king is excited. He goes days and days and he wants to introduce his beautiful woman to the world. And that's the concept. A good man loves his wife. He wants to introduce them to his family, his friends. He wants people to be excited. He wants people to see the camaraderie. He wants people to feel that y'all are one. And when there is no oneness, weakness begins to settle in, and the vultures can pick apart the relationship. So now, he summons Vashti to come before all his noblemen. And Vashti didn't come. She put her socialization before her husband. Everything else was more important to her than her husband. And all he wanted to do was show her out. So when the people seen this, they were shocked. Because people pay attention. So just like when you talk about your man or put subs against your man on social media, people are watching. They watch your behavior. They watch to see if you're supportive of your man. The weak women to pick you apart, and the men are waiting to attack. So typically, when you're a person like Vashti and socialization is more imperative than anything, then that means you are looking for outside affirmation. And that outside affirmation sometimes drives you away from your husband and your family. Let's think about this. What a man wants is a cheerleader. He wants somebody to encourage him and inspire him. Because who is more insecure than a black male? A man who's been raped. A man who was stripped of his land. His house is taken from him. His wife taken from him. His children ripped from him. Struggle to find a job. Go to jobs and be treated disrespectfully. Grow up in a household and you were told that you would never become nothing. Hell, a man's insecurity is what drives him to be an infidel and practice infidelity. He is searching for love all around to fill a void, but the void is so big it can't be filled. I'm setting the tone for you to understand your man. And brothers, you have to acknowledge your infidelity. You have to acknowledge your insecurity. Because it's your weakness. So I say that because we need someone in our corner that is all for us. It's very imperative. It's very imperative. And I'm going to skip from this story and come right back. But it brings me to the second book of Samuel, the 6th chapter, when Michal seen David coming back with the Ark of the Covenant. So David danced. They said he danced out his clothes. He was feeling it. He was feeling God. He was feeling everything that was going on. He was hyped because he was victorious. But it said Michal despised them in her heart. When you despise an individual, their success is not your success. And in fact, there are women that don't want to see their husband succeed because it brings on more attention. Think about that. So now here he has done something great in the eyesight of the God, and it didn't even move Michal. So now we see that she despised him in her heart, and now her behavior is going to tell you what someone who despises somebody will behave like or act out. I want to go to 2 Samuel, and I'm going to read it to you, because you got to hear this. 2 Samuel lead his household. All right, so isn't it typical of brother? We come home, you want to go home, you're excited, you want to tell your wife what you've done, you're amped. All you need is that cheerleader to come out and say, yes, baby, you did it. You got it. And Michal, the daughter of Saul. So we know Michal's the daughter of Saul. But it shows because there was tension and animosity between Saul and David, it trickled down into his daughter. So the animosity was still there. Look at these implications in the scriptures. Came out to meet David and said, didn't the king of Israel do himself honor today? Exposing himself today in the sight of the slave girls of his subjects, as one of the riffraffs might expose himself. So here he comes, he's excited. And mind you, her correction could be actually accurate if she presented it different. But it was that she despised him so much that she couldn't present it to him in a manner that he can accept. She said, did you honor yourself in front of a slave girl? Like they're lower than her. Right? That's what she's making a statement. Let's go on to the conversation. David answered Michal, it was before Yah who chose me instead of your father and all his family and appointed me ruler over Yah's people Israel. So now he has to inform the daughter of Saul. That's why I said it, right? To let you know that it's family time. That God chose him to be the ruler. Was David the most righteous person in the world? Absolutely not. But in position of leadership, these are anointed by the Creator. So there's certain kind of gloves you got to wear when you're dealing with this. And he goes on and says, I will dance before Yah and dishonor myself even more. and be low in my own esteem, but amongst the slave girls that you speak of, I will be honored. He says, basically, the people that you're putting low boost up my esteem. And since you can honor me, the same slave girls you speak of, I would allow to honor me. Because that's the thing that we go through as men. We are destroyed and we are distraught. We go through depression. We're down. And all we look for is someone to be our hero when we're trying to be the world's hero. That one person who cares. That one person who's concerned. And mind you, sisters, you think that men are always chasing other women because they are just horny or they just want to do this and that. Most of the time, it's because they want to be loved. They want somebody to root for them. So if you're looking for that cheerleader, consider this. How can you be so angry for something he did or does and punish him so much that he doesn't get the cheerleader, and then it sends him back in the world to look for somebody to boost up his esteem? Now that doesn't make sense unless you're trying to destroy him. Consider that. Because there's a thing when you can kick somebody when they're down. And I've been a leader for years. And I've always felt down in many areas or sad about this because I'm taking on the worries of the world. A leader is the one who carries the burden of others who can't. See, and then in the woman's mind, sometimes they be like, well, why you don't treat me like her? Or when she does wrong or she act like this, you don't say all of that. It's because as men, we hold our women in higher esteem. We think that you know us better than anybody else. So certain behavior we don't tolerate from people that are closest to us. Because sometimes that behavior is just there because you want to bring us into confrontation. So one, your woman should never embarrass you in public. She should never make a stance publicly against you. Because all you have is your word and your name and your image. No social media subs against your husband. If you need help, seek help. There's a difference. There's a difference between needing help and messy. You have to think and consider that. And brothers, you have to gather up your own self-esteem. Because it's hard for you to want somebody that doesn't want you. And how do you feel about yourself to desire something that doesn't desire you unless you don't desire yourself? I say this because it's very important. I'm going to go to Proverbs 7:11 before I say what I say. And anybody out there, if you got any comments, I'm here. But I want you to start going in the book. The book goes into character. It goes into a deeper development of how the mind thinks and how it processes things. You have Esther versus Vashti. All right. 7:11 says, she is stubborn and restive, and she is never in her home. So back to the Vashti socialization, right? So now she's going in tune with pleasing everybody else, that she starts to lose her position and it draws her away from the home. So you got to see this when you have your wife dealing with you, and when she deals with everybody else, she's happy, she's excited. But when she deals with you, she shuts down, she cuts off, because her ability to be affirmed or supported and boosted up does not come from the house anymore. It is associated with what everybody else thinks. And this is the first story in Genesis, dealing with Adam and Eve. Here are clear-cut guidelines and told to the man what he should do, but it was until outside influence came in and shifted the malleable mind of a woman. And women's minds are malleable because it is what helps them be submissive in a way. It helps them to be able to conform and to adapt, as we spoke of. But it's dangerous when the social structure that surrounds that woman is deviant. Most of your problems with your Vashti is because who she surrounds herself with and what she surrounds herself with has greater impact or influence than you, because her feet abideth not in her own home. And it doesn't mean that she's going to the club. She could be on social media all day. She could be worried about likes. I remember a time when the men used to go out to the club, the women would stay home, chill, drink, and play cards. Now the women are going out to the club while the men watch the children. Society's roles are slowly reversing. Look at the story of Dinah. And before I go into the story of Dinah, I want to talk about Vashti, because Vashti was an open rebellion. And you have some women that are assertive and they are openly rebellious against you. So you may think that, oh, I ain't got a one that's openly rebellion, but you may have a one that's passive aggressive. And pardon me, because this echo in my ear is kind of killing me, but that's good. You may have one that's passive aggressive. And what does it mean to be passive aggressive? It means you might not agree with it, but it doesn't get done. Your husband says, I need you to do this. You say, okay. You get home, oh no, I was busy. Tell him the same thing again. Oh, I didn't have time. Constantly, what you're putting before them are not being achieved. That's another form of defiance. So now you have the openly rebellious ones, and then you have the one who are passive aggressive, and they'll make sure they foil your plans because they're not happy with you. A woman not being happy with you is something that you have to look in. Don't try to push it to the side. Try to get to the core of what's wrong, because eventually your wife is going to end up somewhere else. Whether it's immediately physically, but everybody seeks love. And in that seeking love, outside of your house, you become a victim. The Hebrew word for harlot is zonah. It means a person who sells goods. So they constantly have interaction with males because they're selling goods. This leaves a vulnerable woman to be mischievous and put herself in compromising positions. So if you find your wife being defiant, first check her surroundings. Who she's around, who she hangs with. Because the book said, how can two walk unless they agree? And then mindful. of her interactions. So now we have to take it to another level. Because there's the Proverb 31 woman where you so comfortable and confident in what she's doing because she's always doing what you told her to do and you don't even have to tell her to do it. She becomes independent in the way that she's confident in herself. She understands what you're pushing and she follows through. And that's why I brought the story of Dina in. Because Dina hung out with the sisters of the world. What happened to Dina? She slept with someone. Her strict family, everybody that brought her up and raised her to be a virtuous daughter went out the window because of the influence of who she's around. Now, Esther, and I'm going to close out. Esther was a beautiful person, but you don't look at the story. When you read the story of Esther, Esther had a handicap that was stronger than anybody else. And women of the world use it today to make excuses why they rebel. Esther didn't have any parents. They died at a young age. Did she go out into the world and seek affirmation and sleep with men and make bad decisions? Absolutely not. She was the replacement for Vashti because she was a virgin. And that goes into the psychological issues of when we're dealing with women that aren't virgins, because now they have issues of their past. But society teaches us that virgins are no good, or, oh, that's too young, or whatever. So we want women that are old or been through multiple relationships, and then we find tragedy and travesty. Esther did not use her past as an excuse to become rebellious. In fact, she used it to inspire and position herself to bring others with her. Esther was pleasant, so kind that the king loved her above all. Hadassah, the myrtle tree. She epitomized femininity. I love a feminine woman. I love a feminine woman. Absolutely. She epitomized gentleness. I love a gentle woman. And there's nothing that I couldn't do for a woman that was feminine and a woman that was gentle. I love a chaste woman. A woman humble. I love a woman that speaks truth. You ask yourself, do you have the Vashti? The one who creates the constant conflict, or the one who's smooth enough and gentle enough to guide you where they want you to go, as long as it's part of where you want to go? Spiritual Development Channel. Any questions? Stay blessed.